All right, good morning, everyone. Becky DeGrossa here with Counseling Wise. Welcome to the webinar this morning, and I'm so happy to have Howard Baumgarten with me this morning. I'm going to give you a little intro of Howard, and then he's going to be able to say hello, and you're going to get to see his sweet face there in Denver in the snowy Colorado morning here. And then he's going to switch over to his presentation. So before I even start, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me, hear my voice. So, oh good, Megan already says I can see and hear you. Great. So there must be less of a lag with Google Hangouts this morning, which is awesome. Okay, good. So Howard has been in private practice for 15 years. He's been doing therapy for 20 years. And he is primarily working with children, adults, families, adolescents, couples. He has a consultation business. He's the founder of Smart Practice Central, and Smart Practice Central coaches basically therapists on business with their private practice. He's valuing intelligent, ethical, and clinically minded practice development, which is one thing that I really love about Howard. I met Howard, gosh, I don't know, what was it, Howard, maybe 6 months ago at a Denver Therapy Network meeting. And I had known about him for some time, but I met him there, and then we connected and had a great lunch together and started talking about doing some things together. So it's really good to have you here, Howard. He has lectured around the country on the integration of mental health and business, including things such as practice development. He knows a lot about working in the managed care practice, in managed care systems, and he has lectured on the impacts of the Affordable Care Act. So that's pretty neat that he's so up on that. He is currently authoring a book on the topic of practice building, and that should be out next year. So that's pretty neat too. We'll be watching for that. He's an adjunct faculty member at University of Colorado Denver's Masters in Counseling Psychology program, and he, all of us whine about this, right? That we never got private practice training in our school years, and so he's actually implemented the first practice building business course in a graduate level counseling program in the country. So hats off to you, Howard, for that. Everyone would love to have been in that class, I'm sure. So he's also a big outdoorsman. I know that because it seems like every time I talk to him, he's been skiing or running or whatever. You were even jogging this morning, right, in the rain before it turned to snow. So a big family man too, I know that, and I'm just so happy to have you here, Howard. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, one thing I forgot. This is how imperfect this is, me forgetting. I wanted to just encourage everyone to go ahead and type in questions when Howard's going through his presentation. Type in questions in the chat box, and he's going to hold all the questions until the end. But if you can type them in when they come up, we'll have them queued up in there, and then he'll be able to go through those and answer any questions that you have. Okay, so here you go. I'm so happy to present Howard Baumgarten.
Thank you so much, Becky, for such a wonderful introduction. And can everybody see and hear me as well? So maybe a few of you can just type that in so I know that you can see and hear me. I am so excited to be here, and though we have a limited, small amount of time, I want to provide you with a lot of information about business planning, which I think is one of the essential elements of practice development. And while there's much more we can talk about beyond business plan development, I really want to give you today the core aspects of private practice, business development, business planning. And so one of the things I want to recommend is for you to have a piece of paper next to your screen and jot down the different modules that I'm going to give to you today, excuse me, that I'm going to give to you today, so that you can actually start writing your plan while you're receiving the information from me. I want you to have something in the next 45 minutes substantive to take back with you into your practice, whether you're just starting out in practice or you are already a seasoned practitioner. This information will be very helpful for you. Now, some of you on the program today might be returning guests from my trainings. I've been all over the country, as Becky mentioned, and if you are here, this will serve as a good way to kind of review your plan. So if you already have a business plan due to one of my trainings or someone else's, take that plan out right now and put it aside right next to you and jot some notes down as I'm going through this. Okay, I'm going to turn on the slides now, so I want to make sure everybody can see those slides. Give me a moment. Can everybody see the slides? There should be a backpacker up on the first slide. So if somebody can type that in, that would be great. Okay, so why is there a backpacker on the slide? Well, first of all, that backpacker is me, and I love using the analogy of preparing your business plan as a way of preparing for backpacking. As Becky mentioned, I'm a very big outdoorsman. I grew up in Colorado, never left, and I've been a backpacker for a long time and a hiker. And when you go on a backpacking trip, you really need to lay out all of the clothing and food and preparation materials that you need in order to prepare the food, a warm sleeping bag, a tent. So definitely have rain gear. If you can see that in that picture, there's an orange poncho. You got to have all your materials ready to go, because as you can see behind me in that picture, it's snowing. It had just snowed that day, and this was probably taken 20 years ago. But the reality is that you've got to be prepared, and you've got to have a plan. And when you're out backpacking, it is a matter of survival. And the reason I have this slide up is I want you to think about your business plan as a matter of survival in your professional life. It is an opportunity for you to really organize yourself, an opportunity for you to assess and appraise what's going on throughout the development of your business. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of not creating a plan, and they just kind of wing it, and they're moderately successful at times, and maybe they're doing pretty well and they feel like they don't need a plan. The bigger issue is that they don't really have as much direction as you would have if you actually sit down and create a solid plan. And I'm going to give you several components today, including a way to really gather your niche, a way to really market your niche, a way to really kind of think about what is it that you really want to be doing as you navigate your journey through your practice, throughout your practice. So, first thing I want to talk about in the business plan, and you're going to see I'm going to go through a number of different modules here, and each module will sort of be separate, but they'll all integrate with one another. And the one thing that integrates the most is the executive summary. And you can imagine what an executive summary is. It's actually sort of like an abstract of a research article. We all read articles in our field, and what do? We go to the abstract first to see if it's something that we really want to delve into, and that's pretty much what your executive summary is about. It's an opportunity for you to write out the summary of the entire plan. Now, I talk about it first because it's the first thing that goes in your plan. Interestingly enough, it's the very last thing you're going to write. So one thing I want you to write down right now next to the executive summary is to do this last. That it's a summary of all the modules that I'm going to go through that you're going to develop over time. And usually for most people it's somewhere between about a half a page and no more than a page and a half. On average, probably about a page. You want to make sure you're summarizing each section that I'm about to go through in your plan. And the nice thing about an executive summary is if you're presenting your plan to somebody and you need something more than an elevator speech, maybe you're working with a banker, maybe you're working in collaboration with somebody else, like you have a partnership with somebody, and you want to give more information, you can use that executive summary as a way to say, here's kind of where my business plan is today. It's a great way to kind of get people interested in the depths of your practice and your practice plan without them having to read the entire plan. Your mission is really, in my opinion, the favorite part. This really is about your purpose. What is your purpose? What were you born to do? You got to develop a mission statement that really espouses the concept wholeheartedly and holistically about what is it that you really, really want to do. How do you want to affect your populations that you're working with? I'm not talking right now about what specific niche you're definitely going to be working in. You'll hone in on that niche a little bit more a little bit later, and maybe your mission statement has some of your niche in it, but it's also all-encompassing. So, for example, I'm gonna tell you what my mission statement is for Smart Practice Central. Okay, so for Smart Practice Central, which is my consulting business and my teaching other practitioners about the business of practice, is to raise the standard of how we do business as practitioners, creating systems of success that are transparent to clients, colleagues, and community, while encompassing the values of smart business decisions, strong ethical behavior, and clinically mindful treatment. And by the way, you'll notice throughout this presentation that I really like putting things in threes. So there are 3 salient lines in there, if you notice that. I have a clinical practice that you know, and the clinical practice is Build, Change, Grow. And my mission statement for Build, Change, Grow is build something new in order to change something old in order to grow. Very simple, and I made it simple like that because I'm trying to speak to general populations who may not understand clinical terms. And that's the other thing. In your mission statement, you're going to want to make sure that your writing is very much in lay terms and not in professional terms. So try to stay away from terms like depression, anxiety, anything that would, even though those are household terms, I would still stay away from them and really use much more lay terms than clinical terms in your mission. So this is really about what am I empowered to do? How do I want to affect change? And how do I want to do it from within my heart? So if you have any ideas, write them down right real quick while we're kind of going through this in terms of maybe catchphrases or words that come to mind for you, and you can formulate your mission a little bit later on when you're off of the webinar program. Well, branding is really important, and branding really is one of the most significant things when we talk about marketing, when we talk about actually putting your name out there. And as you're branding, you're not going to have your mission statement on your business card because it's going to be a little bit longer than what your business card is going to hold, obviously. You may have your mission statement at the bottom of a flyer, which is fantastic, but you're going to want to have a tagline, a logo, a creative business name. You know, when I got into the private practice world, I took out an LLC name that was actually my name, and one of the reasons I did that is 15 years ago, managed care was really a very popular way of getting clients. It still is very popular and an important part of how people get clients. But back in the day, when people would search for clinicians, the search would come up alphabetically by distance very often, both when they called into the insurance company and they were looking on their own internal servers, as well as when people did their own searches. And of course the individual consumer search process has really taken form. And so I took out a business name that was my name because my last name is spelled B-A-U-M, and so I would come up first on all the searches, and so it was really a marketing strategy back then. And I since then added my website, Build, Change, Grow, and then of course in my new business I have Smart Practice Central as a name. So as time has gone on and the internet has become a huge area for marketing and networking, you know, I really think having a creative name is extremely important in your business. You can still practice as yourself as well, but you know, having a creative name says a lot, and more and more people are building hybrid type practices or total fee-for-service out-of-pocket practices, and not working with managed care. And so I think having a business name is really, really important. And then you want to have a tagline, and a tagline is really a very short and abbreviated version of your mission statement. Much like the executive summary is an abbreviated version of your whole plan, the tagline is an abbreviated version of your mission statement. And again, I like to do things in threes, and so you know, I've taught some of my students and my other trainees to kind of think about 3 words or 3 short phrases that espouse your tagline. And this particular business card is a business card courtesy of my current intern and former student, Veronica Tunis, who's wonderful, and the name of her business is Rooted in Recovery Counseling. As you can see, she's got a beautiful logo of a tree with lots of roots, and she has 2 taglines, one with 3 words right under Rooted in Recovery that says acceptance, growth, and freedom, and then she has in white underneath that, discover your path to personal transformation. And that is the back of her business card. I put the front on the upper right. But if you can see, this is a great way of branding. It's got a beautiful logo. It's got her business name. It's got both of her taglines on there. And pay attention to colors. She wanted to use earthy colors. So when you think about color, knowing what color you resonate with and what might resonate with your consumer, your client, those things really matter because you're probably not going to change your logo or your cards very much. You might do some tweaking at times, maybe 5 years into your practice, 10 years into your practice, but really you want to be as thoughtful as you can from the get-go with your business card, with your branding. So thank you to Veronica for allowing me to share that with you all. This is really a great, great business card, a great example of a business name, tagline, and logo. Okay. Well, we're going to move on to a module that I call the 4 C's. Now, some of you may have done business plans before and may have heard of the SWOT analysis. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, being the mental health practitioner and counselor that I am, I kept thinking about a few of these words, and I didn't like the word weaknesses, and I didn't like the word threats. I didn't mind strengths and opportunities, but I decided to sort of retweak these words and kind of formulate what I call the 4 C's, which really are stated as follows: capabilities, challenges, chances, and concerns. And they're basically the same thing as the SWOT analogy or the SWOT analysis. But I want you to look at the graphic that I have up, and I want you to see that there are 4 quadrants here. So if you were to look at strengths on the upper left, that would be capabilities. Opportunities on the upper right would be chances. And these are actually positive influences. You see up on the top there, that black part that says positive influences. These are things that are positive that we want to focus on about our practice, about ourselves. Then in the lower left, we have weaknesses, which would be challenges, and threats in the lower right, which would be concerns. These are negative influences. These are things that we often are challenged by, things that we want to work on. And one of the things I'm going to recommend that you do is I'm going to recommend that you break up a piece of paper into 4 columns, and that you actually write down your personal and professional strengths or capabilities, your personal and professional opportunities, your personal and professional weaknesses or challenges, and your personal and professional concerns or threats. Now, if you look at the left 2 on the quadrant, strengths and weaknesses, or stated again, capabilities and challenges, these are things that come from the internal part of us. Okay? These are what is inside of us. What are our strengths? What are our challenges? If you look at the 2 on the right side of the quadrant, you have opportunities and threats, or chances and concerns. Those are things we want to look for outside. So take a look at that. I want you to make sure that you remember this slide, and then fill in your section later with strengths, opportunities, challenges, and concerns, and make sure you do that for some personal areas and some professional areas. And sometimes you may have the same, you may have the same thing in more than one quadrant, and that's okay. Okay, the next module is your services plan. And in this plan, Becky promised that I would go over a 5-point system that will bring you your ultimate clarity, and I'm actually going to give you 6 points, because you got to have the who, what, where, when, why, and how of your services. And the reality is, this is really going to give you clarity in terms of the actual services you provide. So you want to answer the questions for yourself of, who am I working with? Or who are you working with, in fact? That really means, who are the populations you treat? Do you work with couples? Do you work with families? Do you work with adolescents, children ages 0 to 4, children ages 6 to 10? Some of you work with different age children. Who do you work with in terms of types of couples? I want to work with high conflict couples. I want to work with couples who are about to get married. Okay, so that sort of dovetails into the what. Okay, what are the issues you want to focus on? So if the who is the couple, what I like to do is I like to work with couples that have a high degree of conflict and are tired of fighting with each other. And I specifically like to work with men who need to dial in more emotionally and get in touch with their narcissism, and women who have given up and put a wall up and need to learn how to be vulnerable again. So that's what I like to do in terms of just that niche area of couples. And I have a few, 2 or 3 other niche areas. So as you're developing your services plan, you're going to have maybe 3 or 4 different sections under who. You're going to have 3 or 4 different sections under what. You know, what can also be the clinical issues like anxiety, depression, ADHD, autism spectrum disorder. Those are the issues that you treat both clinically in terms of diagnostically, as well as sort of socially or familially. Okay? Then you're going to want to answer where. Now, what's interesting is, why would I say answer where when we're talking about private practice? Well, folks, private practice is really transforming. And whether you realize it or not, we are in the process of supporting and engaging in much, much more collaboration than we ever have. Insurance companies, some of them are now actually paying for collaboration with doctors under consultation codes. And if you're already with insurers, you should check that out with your insurer and talk with them about that to make sure that you get paid for that. So the where actually can be, maybe you actually do a day in a doctor's office and you offer up your services inside of a doctor's office. Or maybe the where, my wife just got back from a training. She's a social worker in the schools, and the gentleman who did the training is a private practitioner in the Denver area. And he works only with kids, and he actually goes out and takes the kids out in the community. He's got a whole liability protection form and all this, and he takes them out to Toys R Us and walks around with them, and they play on the toys, and he takes them to parks and things like this. So you know, you want to think creatively about, where am I going to maximize the benefit of my services? In Colorado, we have a lot of wilderness therapists, people who take couples up into the wilderness and do couples retreats. So the where becomes really important, and you want to define what that looks like for you. When are you providing your services? When I started out in private practice, the when for me was Fridays, because the seasoned practitioners didn't work on Fridays, and I wanted to get clients, and Saturday mornings. And evenings. I don't work those hours anymore, but when you're first starting out, that makes a lot of sense. So and then as you build your practice and you get better and better, the when becomes much more empowering for you, because you can then set your own hours better and better based upon your expertise and the amount of people that you're bringing into your practice. So you want to have a when part of your services plan. The why part, very simple. Write down next to why, see mission statement. It's all about your passion and your purpose and what you love to do, but it's a reiteration of that as it connects to the rest of these elements of your services plan. And finally, the how. And the how is really about your treatment intervention style. What type of treatment do you provide? Are you a cognitive behavioral therapist? Are you a behavioral therapist? Do you do EFT? Are you a mindful-based cognitive therapist? Do you do mind-body connection? Do you do meditation? Do you provide EMDR? There's hundreds of ideas in terms of the how. So you want to write down, where are your technique leanings? Where do you align yourself with the techniques that you use? Folks, this part of the plan is really the powerful part. It's what leads you into your niche, and it's what helps you move yourself in terms of defining who you are and what you do. You've got to be prepared to be able to answer the question, oh, hey, what do you do? And you want to highlight the who, what, where, when, why, and how very quickly, like an elevator speech. Okay? People talk about your elevator speech, you know, your 2-minute speech that you let people know. So you're gonna draw from this services module that you write out as your quick, this is what I do. You'll also do your mission statement when you're talking about the general parts of what you do. And in order to have a good marketing and networking plan, you gotta have, I'm backing up, you gotta have the services plan. So now we're going to talk about marketing and networking. Now, I distinguish between marketing and networking in different ways than other business people do. For our purposes in private practice, networking, I'm going to start with networking. Networking is the creation of intelligent networks of people who can refer to you, and most importantly, to whom you can refer. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. It's social, it's active, it's process-oriented. You do the moving, you do the speaking, you do the contracting and the connecting. You do the referring, the collaborating, and you then receive referrals in return. So first of all-encompassing networking is really about getting out there and spending your time connecting with people. And when you connect, the second part of this is when you connect with people, what you're doing is you're finding out what their needs are, okay? What their needs are and how you can meet their needs, and then you're doing an oh by the way. Oh by the way, it'd be really nice if I actually work with adolescents. I'd love to get some adolescents from you. If you ever have an adolescent that you're seeing, that you're treating, that for medication, let's say I'm talking with a psychiatrist, please feel free to send them to me. And the nice thing is, if you're finding out about their practice and in your networking part, and you're working with those folks in your practice, finding out what they're about, they're going to ask you about what you're about. So rather than you kind of jamming it to them, if that makes sense. Marketing differs from networking in that marketing, the way I define marketing, is that these are smart tools for helping to create and sustain your relevant networks. So they sustain the networks. They sustain the networks of your clients. They sustain the networks of your referrals, okay? And marketing tools are very important. It's why I went over all this branding stuff just a moment ago. Marketing is really, really important, and it doesn't cost you a whole lot of time. It actually costs money. And if you're smart, you'll budget your money well, and you'll spend a little bit on your marketing, and you'll spend a little bit of time on your networking over and over. So you want to be writing down your networking ideas of who do I want to talk to, who do I want to collaborate with, and you want to be writing down your marketing ideas. How do I want to brand myself? Do I want to put out flyers? And folks, you gotta, if you're not online, you have to have a website. And I even go a step further. You can't just have a website anymore. You have to do social media. You have to blog. You have to be active on your website and interactive on the internet. And the type of people that teach you how to do those sort of things are the folks that like to do that and that have internet marketing experience like Becky herself. So Counseling Wise is such a great organization because not only do they know about marketing online, but the great thing about them is that they specialize in working with counselors. They specialize in working with mental health folks, and so they understand what our needs are in terms of what we do, and we need Counseling Wise because they kind of help us with the stuff of the fears that we have revolving around doing social media. And marketing is becoming more and more important in our field. We never had to do this 15, 20 years ago. You got on insurance, insurance provided you with all the referrals that you needed, and that was it. Not anymore. And so it's really important that you do marketing. Now, a couple other little descriptors about marketing. Marketing is emotional. It appeals to people's emotion. It makes them go. If you have a cool logo, it makes people kind of go, wow, the tree roots really speak to me, and rooted in recovery, and I'm recovering from some sort of processed addiction, the person might say. So I want to go. It really triggers that emotion. It's passive in that you don't have to go out and talk to people. It does the speaking for you. Okay, so you're doing some speaking to people through your networking, and through your marketing, you're actually passively letting people know who you are. It's working for you while you're sleeping, while you're in session with your clients, and it's got to be heavily content oriented. It's really the tool of information that helps lead to action for people. It's got to be creative, it needs to be thoughtful, it must be targeting and calculating, and it gets you noticed. And then I created something about marketing and networking where I combine the two, along with a little bit of market research. You've got to go out and into your community and find out what the needs of your community are. And you do that by asking a lot of questions and talking to a lot of different folks about how to do that. And then what you want to do is you want to take your market research, go out and network, go out and market, and lo and behold, what begins to happen is you create this wheel of referrals. I call it the referral wheel. For those of you who have been to my training, you remember the slide I put up where I talk about the three aspects of getting referrals, and it's called the referral wheel. You do market research, you set up your marketing materials, and you network. And then you evaluate what worked, what didn't work, and then you go back and you market and you network and you do more market research. And you keep doing that over and over again until you get more success. And guess what? You will fail in your efforts more than you will succeed in this process. And that is supposed to happen. It's okay. Tell yourself it's okay. Just like you tell your clients when they make mistakes and you're treating them, you want to say, you know what? When you say to your clients, you know what, you're gonna fail at this before, you're gonna get worse before you get better, and you're gonna try, and the success is gonna be hard at first. That's exactly how this referral wheel works. You're going to have to learn what works and what doesn't work, and a lot didn't work for me, and some works for me, and that's typically what happens to most people. Okay, now, you also have to have a lot of support in your practice. If you think you can go into practice or be in practice and run the show throughout your entire career without any professional support network, you're probably going to, you can do it, but you're probably going to be spread quite thin, and the efficaciousness of your clinical work is going to suffer, and your clients are going to know that. And so you really want to create an administration plan. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think about the people that you currently have supporting your practice professionally, and then I want you to think about, as I'm going to tell you this list, the people who you may want to include in your practice professional support. And some people aren't ready for certain support people, and so you have to know when you're ready. And so people always ask me, Howard, when do I know I'm ready? Well, you know you're ready when you say, I'm getting really sick and tired of doing this administrative task, and I probably can afford to hire somebody to do it. So you don't want to wait too long and continue to get sick of doing it just to save a pinch of penny, when you can free up that emotional space that you can otherwise be doing something that you're interested in, okay? And it's too soon if you enjoy doing it and it doesn't make your practice suffer. Like, I like triaging my clients. I don't want to have an assistant triaging my clients because I happen to like talking with my clients and being the first person that they communicate with. So I probably will never have an assistant answer my client initial calls. I'll have an assistant eventually, but I'm not going to hire an assistant to field calls for me, because that's just I like talking to the prospective client initially. So you got to think about what your style is and who you're going to benefit from working with you in terms of your administrative support. Here is a list of the possible people that you may or may not want to hire as a contractee, and you can hire them as a 1099 contractee. You can hire them as an employee. You need to check with your state to find out whether or not you can have 1099 contractees. There are some states in the country that do not allow that, or that have certain legal requirements around how to employ people in your business. So definitely want to check with other practitioners who employ people and how their legal their employer-employee relationship or independent contractor relationship is set up. But the people that I commonly think about that are needed in an administrative support role are a medical biller, particularly if you do insurance, a bookkeeper, somebody to help you with your practice books, an accountant for tax purposes. You know, I did a lot of my own accounting in the very beginning when I was an LLC and I was filing a Schedule C. Now I file an S corp return, and it requires paying monthly payments into the federal portal, and quarterly tax payments, and an extra end of the year return, and it just became too much, and it was time for me to have an accountant deal with my taxes. A financial manager or advisor, somebody to help guide you, and that financial manager or advisor doesn't have to be somebody that you hire at a high cost. A lot of these financial advisors and managers are people that they don't start taking a percentage until you have a certain amount of assets. So you really got to talk to them about how do you get paid. And obviously, some of these folks you're not going to even have as 1099 people. They're just advisors in your practice, like a financial manager or an advisor. Obviously, they get paid through commissions, but you want to ask them how they get paid and where they're steering you. What I did in my practice is I actually did a lot of reading on my own. I read books about it, and I talked with people that I know that are in the field, and I used a couple of different financial advisors, until I needed to consolidate. And we're going to talk about financial management as a separate module in just a few minutes. You're going to maybe want an investment banker, and that's a little bit different from a financial manager. Sometimes they're both the same person, but an investment banker is somebody that actually specializes in selecting investments in terms of high risk, low risk, moderate risk, and a lot of the financial managers and advisors do investing, and they're all housed in the same type of entity. Then you might want a corporate attorney to help establish your corporation. We'll talk about corporations in just a bit, but and that corporate attorney may also be an estate attorney, or you may have a separate estate attorney. You'll need an insurance agent to make sure that you are, you'll need an insurance agent to make sure that you have the proper insurance, not just malpractice insurance. You'll want maybe a commercial real estate broker to help broker a rental agreement for office space if you haven't already done so, or maybe even to help you buy a place if you want to purchase a property. You may want a virtual assistant or an actual assistant, like a reception person, or a virtual assistant to help you with fielding calls, as I mentioned earlier, to help you with other types of tasks. A lot of virtual assistants help do social media and blog writing. And then you might want to consider someone like Becky and Becky's company, like CounselingWise, to help you with online marketing and shore up your website. And they're not just a webmaster, but somebody that actually kind of helps you get to the top of Google searches. The more and more people are contracting with folks like that. So write down the names of people that you know that are working for you, and whether they're being effective, and also the ones that I mentioned that you would like to work with. And then if you don't know any people in your community, I recommend getting 3 solid interviews in each area of people and getting references and recommendations when you hire someone, because having a person that you hire that's not a good match for you is not a good thing. Okay, I said I'd talk about financial management and growth. That's the next module. There are there are three areas that I like to focus on with financial management and growth. The first is the day-to-day financial management. The second is asset protection. And the third is asset growth. So let's talk for a moment about day-to-day financial management. The thing I want to say about financial management from day to day is that you really want to account for every dollar. Every dollar, every penny has a purpose. The key concept of daily financial management is actually look at your finances. Susie Orman said one time that the biggest mistake people make about their finances is that they fail to look at their bank accounts on a routine and regular basis. They become fearful, they avoid, they don't look at their finances. I try to look at my bank accounts and my financial situation routinely. The other key that's important is you want to keep expenses below your income. You want to stay in the black. So don't go spending a lot of money on marketing when you don't have enough money to spend on marketing quite yet. Start spending a little bit in areas that you feel are the best hits for your target market so that you can keep your expenses low as your income is coming in. It's the philosophy that I've built my practice on. I've never, ever, ever been in the red. I did take out a loan only in case of an emergency, and I never had to use the loan in my practice. Okay, obviously I was a little cash poor the first few months while I was waiting for income to come in, but I never had to go into my loan. I had a few $1,000s saved up, and I never once went into my loan. And I wasn't a trust fund kid. I didn't grow up with a ton of money. And the truth is that you don't need a lot of money to be able to run your practice. You just have to be smart about keeping your expenses underneath your income. Okay, let's talk about asset protection. There are two areas of protection I want to focus on. The first is insurance. Most of you know that you need malpractice insurance. In fact, all of you should know that. But beyond malpractice insurance, there are other aspects of insurance that will help protect your financial wealth and the assets that you work so hard to attain. So in addition to malpractice insurance, you need general office and theft. You need disability insurance. And you think to yourself, well, why would I need disability insurance? If I break a leg, I can still treat my clients. What if you fall and have a head injury and your brain doesn't work and you can't work? You need to have disability insurance. You need to think about having some form of life insurance, whether you have term life insurance or whole life insurance. Now, term life insurance is the least expensive insurance. But if you lose your life and you don't have insurance and you have bills to pay like your house and your practice and some practice expenses that you have gone unpaid, you've got to cover all that. Okay? And then you may want to consider having an umbrella policy, and that covers uncovered costs that go beyond the limits of your other policies. It's like, imagine an umbrella. It covers the other insurances that you have that reach their limits of payouts. Now, I don't believe my umbrella covers my malpractice, but it covers every other area. Okay? And most umbrella policies are very, very inexpensive, but I can't emphasize enough the importance of having a lot of insurance protection. And I know we pay a lot of money for insurance, but think about your prevention standard here. If something goes wrong and you don't have insurance, folks, the party is over. Okay, and that's what that leads me into my next point about asset protection, which is if you don't have a legal entity behind your business, you are not putting a protective veil on your personal assets that you get. You must have a legal entity, okay, in my opinion, and it doesn't entirely protect you, but think of a limited liability company or a type of legal entity as a way of putting an extra layer of protection on your assets. So you want to talk to a corporate attorney about having a legal entity. And that's part of your asset protection piece of your financial management and growth plan. Now let's talk about asset growth. Asset growth is really about when you earn your money, if it just sits there, it's going to lose value. So you've got to make smart investments. And I'm not an investment counselor, so I'm not going to tell you where to invest, but I am going to tell you that I want you to think about three primary areas of investment. The first is retirement. It's never too early to think about investing your dollars in a retirement fund. And there are many different vehicles for retirement. You can go with a SEP IRA, a traditional IRA. You can go with one of the more popular ones now is the individual 401k. And they all have different rules, and they all have different amounts that you can put in terms of maximums based upon your annual salary. Please talk to a retirement specialist about setting up and contributing to a retirement fund. The second type of investment is just a regular type of investment. It can be a mutual fund or a stock and as with anything, investments have a certain amount of risk, so you got to know that. Could be purchasing an extra property, or maybe using the purchase of a building or your office space as an investment vehicle. Lots of different ways. And the third investment type, if you have children, is a 529 college savings account. There are other types of college savings accounts, but I have found in my research that the 529 is the best college savings vehicle. And my opinion is, even though I'm not a financial expert, is to start with your retirement, then move into one of the other two, but start with your retirement and grow your retirement. Okay, so that's asset protection, asset growth, and day-to-day financial management, all falling under the financial management and growth module. Well, we have to grow as professionals, and I want everybody to have a professional growth plan, and built into that professional growth plan is something that I call a cultural and cultural diversity inclusion plan. As a professionally growing individual, you want to constantly monitor your ability to be cognizant of different culture, gender, sexual orientation, religion, and really think about how am I growing as a professional in this area? How can I be culturally sensitive? What sorts of cultural sensitivity training do I have as a professional? So that's something I think is very important. As our country is continuing to become a greater and greater melting pot of different types of people with different types of preferences, we have to be cognizant of how we're growing as professionals, and we need to understand our own personal maybe countertransference that might come up about that. So that's another piece to that. But I want you to definitely think about what areas can I grow in professionally and become more multiculturally sensitive. And then there are other areas of professional growth, of course. Your niche area, how can I become better at my niche? What areas maybe are challenging that I want to lean into? Maybe I want to learn more about EMDR, and so I'll do an EMDR training because it's not something that I'm very adept at. So those are some areas I want you to focus on. But write down now 1 or 2 professional growth seminars you'd like to attend in, say, the next year or so. Okay? Got to have a professional growth module. And then you got to have a personal growth module. And personal growth is really important. Got to have some different things that you do to help balance your work-life balance, because, folks, we are in practice for ourselves. We own our own business, and if we could turn it on 24 hours a day if we want, and some of us do that, and we shouldn't do that. You got to have a plan to balance yourself out. And so for me, I really love hiking. I love running. As Becky mentioned, I'm a jogger, a runner. I go skiing. In fact, I'm leaving with my family today after this webinar to go up in the mountains and ski. And so, you know, think about all the things that you do that are important to you. And I want you to focus on 4 key areas for your personal growth plan. And those areas are, what are my eating habits? So nutrition is number 1. Sleep. How well am I at sleeping? And I really mean sleep is one of the most important areas of our personal growth and development and our sort of way of having good work-life balance, okay? Do I get 8 hours of sleep at night? Do I go to bed within the same hour every night? Or am I up till 1 in the morning, sleeping till 10, and then go to bed the next night at 9 o'clock at night? That's not good for your system. You want to have a consistency to your sleep patterns. The third thing is exercise. What types of daily or routine exercise do I engage in that help me feel healthy? I find that the types of exercise that I love are the ones that engage me bilaterally. And I know this for those of you that are into EMDR, that whole centering of your brain and doing the left-right movement through aerobic activity is huge for me. And I've heard from other people are fantastic. So those are the first three. And the last one is spiritually. How do you grow spiritually? What are your spiritual leanings, and how do you engage with yourself spiritually? Maybe it's your religion, maybe it's nature, maybe it's your family, but how do you engage religiously? Or I mean spiritually, pardon me. So that's your personal growth plan. And the last module is your references and resources. And you know, my students that I have do their business plan, they're fantastic. I mean, I have them do an ongoing business plan throughout the semester at the University of Colorado program where I teach. And what they do is they actually have to do an outline, a draft, and then a final draft, and then they have to do a presentation for 30 minutes in front of their colleagues that they get evaluated on. And one of the big sections that one of my students did is she took every resource that she knew in the field and in her community, and every book that she ever read and knew about, and all the people individually that she knew, and she made a reference and resource guide that had to have been 60 pages long. And so I would actually start writing these things down, because you can put some of these on your blog, you can put them in your website, and you have a catalog, you're organized, you have a whole template of everything that you've amassed over your career in this references and resources section of your plan. Very powerful, and then you utilize that with your clientele. You utilize that part of your plan somehow embedded either in your website, where they can go to your website and you know, click on and take a look at the resources, or you have a guide that you can give to them. So you really want to write down your references and your resources in your plan. Well, that's the major modules of the private practice business plan, and now you're hopefully ready to kind of go back and write your executive summary. But all of these modules stand alone, and they're equally as important standing alone, but when you bring them together, that's what really makes it powerful. That's what really organizes you. And I don't want you to write your plan and then just leave it aside. I actually want you to go back every 6 months or so and revisit sections of your plan. So make a note in your calendar to do that. It's really important that you revisit those other all the sections of your plan on a routine basis. Well, I'm really excited to have been able to share this with you, and I want to tell you a little bit about Smart Practice Central. You know, Smart Practice Central is really a design place where I believe that, I really believe that we're all intelligent business people, and we want to merge those intelligent business concepts with really mindful clinical practice and provide successful outcomes. It's not about making money, it's about earning enough money to be able to sustain your business and put back into your business so that it can continue to grow, and for you to have the kind of sustainability that you need in terms of your personal life, and to do it very, very humbly. So Smart Practice Central is really a resource for private practice building and management. I provide ongoing consultation and support for your practice in a variety of ways, and I'm really interested in sort of researching and developing and studying what makes people successful in practice. And so there's a study that's ongoing on my website. The website is up there, smartpracticecentral.com. And if you can go to our study, you're more than welcome to fill out the survey. It takes about 20 minutes. It's all confidential and private. And you know, it's probably going to get some mention in my book that I'm writing right now. It's something, though, that I think is important that we do. We want to understand what's making people successful and what's not successful. And then I provide certification training programs, which you can actually purchase through my website or directly from PESI, who is kind enough to sponsor my programs. And you can go to my website, though, and then go to CE Trainings, and under CE Trainings you can click on, I believe it's certification training module or something like that, or level 1 certification, and then you can go purchase the DVD to get certified. And when you complete the program, you send me your CEU certificate, and I send you a certified smart practitioner wall-framed certificate. You can feel free to reach out to me at info@smartpracticecentral.com, or call me with questions if I don't get to any of your questions. If I don't get to your question today in the few minutes we have remaining, my phone number's there. I want to thank you, and I want to thank Becky for having me. please go ahead and ask your questions now. Let's see if we have any. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, we do. Thanks, Howard. That was great. That was awesome. You go into a lot more detail than most people on practice business plans, I think.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to do actually is I'm actually going to move out of the screen. Can everybody see me now?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, good. Fantastic. Okay, so let's answer a couple questions. What do I mean by Tammy's asking, what do I mean by hybrid? Is that a hybrid model about payment or about the types of services offered? Tammy, that is a great question. What I meant by hybrid in the discussion was how you get paid, actually. So hybrid meaning having a diversified system in your practice of payers. So maybe you work with 2 or 3 managed care panels, and maybe the people that don't come in through managed care come in through your private practice as a fee-for-service client, and maybe you actually have 1 or 2 other, maybe you take victims compensation, or you work with Medicaid or Medicare, one of the public programs. So that's really what I call a hybrid practice. But you're right, the hybrid meaning could also be meant to state that you have a diversified amount of services that you offer. But the way I meant it was more what's coming in from the different areas. And so hybrid means part managed care, part fee-for-service, or something else. Alice asked, are therapists allowed to have professional corporations that are S corporations? Absolutely. Now, you need to check with the state that you're in as far as the rules around S corps. But for example, my private practice, in Colorado, you can start an LLC and you can file as an LLC, and then you can change your filing status to S corp. I went ahead and changed my filing status to S corp at a time that my accountant recommended me to do so, that it would be tax advantageous to do that. And so yes, you can set up as an S corp, but you do need to check with your state's rules and then how and then how that interacts with the federal filing as well. Okay, Becky, you wanted to know about examples of chances, opportunities, and concerns for therapists. So great question. So an example of opportunities would be I'm locating my practice in an area that doesn't have a lot of clinicians that work with adolescents, or there may not be a lot of males. And so I have an opportunity as a male clinician to go into some adolescent treatment centers that are nearby that don't have a lot of private practice therapists in the community, and I've identified that by maybe calling around to some of the agencies and saying, hey, do you have, tell me what you have in terms of the needs to refer out in the community, and they might say, well, we have a few people, but we need some more males, or we need somebody that specializes in animal-assisted therapy. Something kind of different, and so that might be another opportunity. Another opportunity might be I specialize in animal-assisted therapy, which is really unique, or a particular specialty that is highly desirable, and so I think it provides an opportunity. Now, what's a concern or a threat for therapists? I'm setting up my practice in a really popular area. Oh, let's just say Boulder, Colorado, and there's a lot of therapists, and so that might be a concern because there may be oversaturation of therapists in that particular community. But I might also put it in the chances column too, because it's an opportunity for me to create partnerships and collaborate more. So that's an example of actually how it could be both. Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, what are common mistakes you see when people are creating their business plans? I think the biggest mistake that people make in their business plan is they don't create a business plan. And I think the second biggest mistake is they don't review what they've created. They kind of start doing it and then they stop and they don't review it, they don't get back to it. It really needs to be an ongoing blueprint. It's the idea of you plan your work and you work your plan, and then you go back and you plan your work. Okay? Let's see. Somebody asked about the 4 C's and giving an example of weaknesses. So weaknesses or challenges might be, I'm challenged by my fear that this might be a personal weakness or a personal challenge. I'm challenged by my fear that I'm not a good business person, and so not being a good business person makes me feel a little bit fearful and gun shy about maybe going into private practice at all, or I need some extra support. And actually, it's funny that I'm talking about that type of fear, because that's usually what I get when people want to consult with me individually. What happens is they'll call me and they'll say, you know, I'm in private practice, or I'm going in and I need some extra support and consultation. And usually 9 times out of 10 when I'm done talking with them, it's usually that they can build their business, but that they need that extra support because it's a weakness or an area of challenge for them. Other challenges might be that you know, I have a hard time managing my time, and I'm challenged by ending my sessions on time, and I want to get better at that, because really, as a business person, I don't want to give away my time that's not paid for on a consistent, routine basis. And so that could be another weakness that you're focusing on. So I hope that those are good examples. Thank you, Kathy, for your comments. Let's see, Alice. Thank you for your comments. I think we're also out of time, so if you have any other questions, by all means, email me at info@smartpracticecentral.com, call me 303-312-1687. Becky, I really want to thank you for having me on, and I enjoyed my time today. Enjoy your day, and go out and make and do your business plan, and follow it to the letter, or just follow it. Thank you.
Great, Howard. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your expertise on this. And thanks, everybody, for coming. And the replay will be sent to anyone who opted in, so no worries. You'll be able to listen to anything that you missed. And we're going to call it a wrap. So thanks so much. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next month. Bye-bye.